Right, guys, today I want to talk about working capital and cash flow issues every Shopify store has, especially if you're using PayPal. We know PayPal likes keeping some of the revenue you make as a reserve balance that you're not allowed to access until much later, where you are able to access it, but that's only sometimes weeks or even months after you've actually made that revenue. It's a very common issue. I want to talk about how to solve this issue, how you can actually use certain apps to help you automate that issue at the very least, if not also improve your cash flow, and generally how one can overcome all those challenges, specifically for Shopify and for any payment processor that you use on Shopify. We typically use Shopify Payments and PayPal, although we've also used Stripe and many of the other common payment processors, which all have very similar issues. Let me quickly show you a bit of a story, tell you, I guess, a bit of a story of how we've actually faced some of our biggest cash flow issues and how we've solved it long term. And hopefully this will also then be transferable to you. So I'm going to show you the difference between October, November, and December for this given store. Why? Because that's exactly where we ran into those issues pretty hardcore. So in October, we're making 140K approximately in revenue. And then, of course, in Q4, the busiest time of the year, we managed to scale quite nicely. We scaled to 230K in November. And then in December, we scaled to 238. So even a little bit more. However, if you actually go, I actually pulled up our payout dates in December, and you can see that here on the right-hand side is actually the money that hits our bank account. For this given store, it's in pounds, but that's just a currency consideration. We've actually changed that later on. Obviously, you can choose which currency you want to be paid out on Shopify. But you can see that there's huge fluctuations where every Wednesday actually is where we get those big payments. So we got 22K on this Wednesday, when it was 1st of December. Then on the 8th of December, we got 16K, then another 16K on the 15th of December, so on and so forth, right? So every Wednesday, a lot of the previous revenue you would make from 3, 4, 5 business days before that would essentially accumulate and be paid off, right? So if we just choose a random date, you can actually press on it. And you can see that, okay, the gross amount is 17.16K. We obviously need to pay Shopify its fees. That's how they make their money. Not only, but obviously that's a big component. We had a few refunds, we had a few adjustments, but those are relatively small. And then you can see the actual orders, right? Order by order, what accumulated into this payout, right? So we got paid out on the 8th of December, but you can see there's a few orders from the 6th of December, but many already on the 5th. If you go down, there's obviously quite a few orders that have accumulated to those 17K, all the way to the 3rd of December, right? Maybe even earlier. Let's see. No, so starting with the 3rd of December, right? So we have a bunch of orders from the 3rd of December that only get paid out on the 8th of December, right? Now you can imagine if you're growing quickly, even from week to week, right? And I think that was this week approximately here, that if you make the revenue on the 3rd of December and you need to wait 5 business days to actually get that revenue in your bank account, there's already there that 5-day working capital issue that I'm sure you guys are familiar with, right? Where you cannot reinvest this money straight away, right? And those dates might be slightly different if you're using Stripe. And even Shopify now has an integrated bank account system where this working capital issue is reduced by quite a large extent, but many other stores are still using other payment processors where you have similar issues. Although 5 days isn't such a big deal, what I really want to touch on this video is PayPal. PayPal is a big deal, and actually 50% of our revenue from this store is made from PayPal. As you can see, obviously we're making way more than the payouts here suggest, right? So I want to discuss PayPal, how you can fix those working capital issues, and all the tools that we use there. So check it out. All right, guys, let's discuss working capital and cash flow issues for your Shopify store, how you can improve that, how we overcame our biggest challenges, and again, things that you can then do to not face those issues. They are very annoying issues. I'll really be spending most of the video on PayPal. I'll share 3 very powerful tools that I found to completely automate the PayPal operations when it comes to refunds, to disputes, to any chargebacks, and generally automate everything around PayPal to the point where I don't even need to log in into any of the PayPal accounts for my Shopify stores. Everything happens automatically. And of course, I already touched on, for example, the payout schedule for our Shopify payments, which, yes, is also not ideal in the sense that, as I explained in the intro, you have those 5-day gaps where you make revenue today, but you only get paid out in something like 5 days. That, to be honest, you can work around with, and I think most Shopify stores do that naturally anyway. If you still think this is a huge problem and you're scaling very quickly, check out my video on revenue-based financing. There I discuss ways to bridge short-term financial gaps with tools like that, where you can essentially get loans pretty fast that are even much longer than 5 days, but still shorter maturity loans, like 2 to 3 months, and they are perfect for also bridging those types of gaps in terms of cash flow issues. But anyway, let's jump into PayPal. I actually logged in to our PayPal account, and I want to be as transparent as possible. This is actually for the same store that we have here. It's just a different time horizon. So here I obviously showed November, December, because this is obviously where those cash flow issues were the most prominent. By no means is it the only time of the year where we have cash flow issues, but obviously the faster you're scaling, the bigger those issues become. And here we're in a different time period, but regardless, the concepts apply. So you can see even now, after a lot of improvements, we still have 7,000 pounds of money not available. And that's what I mean with the PayPal reserve, that they obviously take the revenue that you make and they essentially put it on the side. So let's press what you can do, and you'll see this page here, where I think a good thing that PayPal does is essentially provide you this calendar, right? Which probably many of you are already familiar with, where it says your money is on hold. PayPal is holding a reserve of $4,000 of your existing funds. This is to ensure that your PayPal balance is high enough to cover any disputes or refunds, blah, 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 et cetera, right? And I think one thing that they actually do really well is provide you this release schedule, where they actually tell you, okay, you're going to get X amount of money now, and then in this month, and this week, and then the week of 16th of January, and the week of 23rd of January, and then the week of 30th of January, right? And so on it goes. So you see, there's small payments trickling in every day, but it's still obviously very annoying because we have a reserve of 4,000. In fact, as you can see, the money on hold is much higher because, again, we have this release schedule, which obviously takes quite a bit longer for us to actually get the money that we literally already made in revenue from our Shopify store. So I'll share 3 tools that I have used to completely automate the PayPal operations, which I have found extremely helpful. So there's 3 issues that we need to solve with PayPal, which I face over and over again, and it actually took me quite a while to solve all 3 of them. So number 1 is you actually need to transfer out money from your PayPal account every day, right? I mean, at least that's what I want to do. So the money that you do have available, and again, all the money that's trickling in terms of your release schedule, right? I want to transfer that out as soon as possible onto my bank account, right? I don't want to have money on my PayPal account. I want the money to be on my bank account where I can actually use it, right? Reinvest it into my business and actually deal with all kinds of other things and expenses that I can actually, then pay from the bank account. Now, obviously, to withdraw, right? Typically, you need to go and press on, send a request money, right, and actually do it manually. That's very annoying. There is a tool that you need to unlock. That's the thing. PayPal does not provide it to you for some reason. It actually took us quite a while to unlock it, but I'll show you how. So if you go into your account settings and you go under money, banks, and cards, you're essentially going to see an option called automatic transfers. I'll show it to you in a second. So you'll see exactly automatic transfers. And that's the thing. PayPal will not provide this to you when you open up a new account. Even if you have the account for several months, you have to hit a certain threshold of the amount of fees you obviously pay PayPal for you even to qualify to unlock this setting. It's very annoying. You have to chase the customer support over and over again. It took us literally months to unlock this, but I think it's completely worth it. So, if you've already had your store for a while and you've already had your account for multiple months, you might already be eligible. Just give it a shot, right? However, if you are creating a new account from scratch, from what I know, definitely this is what happened to us 4 or 5 times in a row, and it was very frustrating, is that they do not allow you to open it, and they don't even tell you what exactly you need to do. They just tell you that you need to have the account for even longer and spend even more money with PayPal before you're actually eligible to even apply. Then they need to approve it, and once you're approved, you will see it here under your settings. However, once that is approved, the great thing is that this is already obviously set up for all of our stores. You can tell PayPal, okay, automatically transfer out daily. For example, if you press daily, you can select the time or whatever, the entire balance, or leave a minimum balance, and then also convert. If you're receiving money in different currencies, which we actually are for most of our stores, then you also have the option to convert all of those into your local currency, and then PayPal will transfer it to your bank account automatically. And anyway, I'm not going to go through this. This is already on. It's very self-explanatory. I'm sure you'll figure it out once you unlock it. Just my word of advice is keep on pushing to unlock it, because you need to be a bit persistent there. But then once I unlock it, you just have it forever. And then the beautiful thing is you do not need to log into PayPal. Yes, let's stay logged in. You do not need to be logged into PayPal ever again, because you don't need to actually manually withdraw any money. It will happen automatically on a daily or weekly basis, whatever you set. And that's problem number one that you can fix. Problem number two, and this is actually a bit under one umbrella, are disputes and refunds. But before it even comes to disputes and refunds, PayPal, especially if you're a new account, they just want tracking information for all of your orders. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with that, where just to essentially unlock this release schedule and essentially improve your reserve and generally have PayPal approve your orders faster. They sometimes, actually in the beginning, pretty much for every order, they ask you for the tracking number and sometimes even other information about every order. That's also extremely annoying if you have to log in every day and manually copy paste your tracking information from your Shopify order page to PayPal. That's why we use an app called Trackidex. Again, there's many different apps like this that do something similar, right? And maybe I can even show you. Okay, I just wanted to show you on the apps. Doesn't matter. It's called Trackidex, and this app allows you to essentially integrate directly with your PayPal account, and the app will automatically share the tracking information and any other information about. Let's just press view all orders. Again, it's very simple. You set it up once, it just works, right? It just takes all the orders that you have and shares the information with, again, the tracking information with PayPal. That way, PayPal doesn't need to ask you any more questions. You don't have to once again log in and deal with all this stuff, and you can again just let the app do it for you. Also, a super annoying thing that we did for quite a while manually until we figured out that there's apps that allow you to automate all of this stuff. So check it out. Again, also very simple app. Nothing fancy here. I think it's also pretty cheap. And again, there's a few different options here, I believe. So that's problem number two that we've solved, right? And then problem number three, perhaps that's actually the biggest problem, and that is disputes and refunds. So as you know, PayPal is obviously very well known, and I think that's what they do really well, and why customers obviously trust PayPal, especially when it is on your checkout page, is because you can create disputes as a customer, right? And then PayPal will essentially decide, is this dispute actually warranted, and do you actually deserve to get the refund or not, right? And there's this whole process that you go through, right? And as a merchant, you obviously then, if there's a dispute, you need to provide PayPal with all this additional information. What's the tracking code, and essentially prove that you did send this order the way it has been promised at the time of sale to the customer. And the customer can really, create a dispute about anything. They got the wrong color, they didn't like how it looks, it came too late, or all the way to, it never came, right? So, that's kind of, I think, the beauty from the customer side, that they're able to create those disputes as they wish. And then obviously, if you don't want to automatically refund them, it is your responsibility as the merchant to then go through this dispute process with PayPal, which, to be honest, is also very annoying. I'm sure if you guys ever did it, it's just a lot of manual, again, copy pasting of tracking codes or whatever it might be. And there is another app that we use called ChargeFlow, which won't load, but that's fine. I also have their website here. What they do is they also integrate directly with your PayPal account, and they deal with all the disputes automatically for you. Once again, you don't have to log in. You don't even have to know about those disputes. Those disputes happen. The ChargeFlow sees those disputes on PayPal. It has all the information because it's also integrated with your Shopify, right? And it just provides all the information that's necessary for PayPal to essentially process the dispute. And what I like them, and again, not affiliated, and there's many other companies that do something similar, but why I like them is their pricing model. They don't charge you anything except a success fee, right? So every time a dispute has gone in your favor, right? So you don't actually need to pay a refund because you were actually right. you sent the order as promised to the customer, and their complaint was not warranted as per the decision of PayPal, then they just get 25% cut of that chargeback amount. They also do something similar for Stripe. To be honest, we barely have any Stripe chargebacks, although we also use them, I think, for Stripe. Point is, for PayPal, it's quite handy anyway. I don't want to advertise them too much, but and essentially you can go on their website, read what they do in any way, and that's really the problem they're solving. Is the old way of dealing exactly with PayPal's resolution center is just very annoying, and they just do that for you. And obviously, by no means do they win every dispute, right? Some disputes are actually, still won by the customer, because of course it might just be that, you did everything correct as the merchant, you sent out the order to the customer, but then DHL completely destroyed the packaging or whatever, right? And then the customer is obviously very upset about that, and then you would, lose a dispute, which is fair. But the point is that it will automate that process for you, and you don't have to log in. So hopefully this was already very helpful, and you are now able to also automate the entire process of your PayPal account for your Shopify store, because with those 3 tools that I showed you, right, you can automatically transfer out any payments from PayPal whenever they get released at your convenience without ever having to log into your PayPal accounts again. You can deal with any questions that PayPal asks you to actually release the payments as fast as possible by providing them tracking information with tools like Trackidex. And finally, you're able to deal with any refunds and disputes by using other tools like ChargeFlow that do it automatically for you. So one other thing I'll mention, right, is that one thing that really helps you reduce your reserve and essentially speed up the release schedule is obviously shipping out items much, much faster to your customers, right? If you ship out your items in 2 to 3 days across the US, which we do for most of our stores, because we actually use a 3PL, third-party fulfillment center, that does the fulfillment on our behalf, you're able to avoid a lot of those issues up front, right? And obviously customers don't complain if they receive the product within 2 days, right, of them actually making the order. Of course, many of those issues come about, and we obviously have other stores, especially in the past, that where we were drop shipping, right, where of course a lot more customers complain if they haven't received their product after a week or after 10 days, right? Because your drop shipping system is too slow, and that's where really those huge cash flow issues come about. And I actually want to give you some concrete numbers, because we built a external tool, which, let me make my camera a bit smaller. We built an external tool where essentially we scraped our PayPal accounts and tracked how much money was stuck on PayPal versus also how much money is available on PayPal, right? And this is before we made all those improvements, right? So leading up to Q4, you can see the orange is actually how much money we had stuck on PayPal, right? So this amount here, right, money on hold, not yet available, right, is actually the money that we've tracked on this chart. And obviously you can see as we were scaling up into Q4, this completely skyrocketed, right? At one point, believe it or not, we had almost 90K stuck on PayPal. And only after December, right, only after the peak Q4 period was over, were we able to reduce it. But again, and then we had the second kind of spike, and only after that, that's when I actually got very serious about, okay, I want to automate everything about PayPal, and be on top of our cash flow issues, right, which we then did. And you can see we were able to first reduce it down to this, then we reduced it down to even much lower amounts, and finally, as you could see now, for this store, we only, quote unquote, only have 7K on hold, which is still a lot if you ask me, but it's definitely a huge improvement. And I think given the volumes we're making, it's actually completely manageable at this point. Whereas, for example, again, the example I showed you here, this definitely was much more challenging, because this was also the time when we actually made our first huge inventory bulk payments to really switch to additional 3PLs and to really provide faster shipping to also solve this. But then, that just amplified our cash flow situation, because we needed enough money to both make the inventory payments and PayPal was making our life harder because all this money was in reserve, right? And we had to do everything manually in terms of giving PayPal tracking information and dealing with all the disputes and refunds. So anyway, hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully with those tools, you can also never log into your PayPal account again. Let that work on its own. Automate that fully, and then finally focus on the things that matter most, which is scaling your store, building your business, and ultimately, dealing with the things that are more enjoyable. So thank you. Hopefully that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey, before you bounce, consider subscribing to our channel, but only if you've actually enjoyed the video and found at least a few valuable things for your Shopify store. Also, check out our free Shopify app, Trackidex. We have a link in the description below. We're developing new features literally every day, and we're also excited to actually hear your feedback on some of the next features we should develop. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.